Hmm. Testing, testing, testing. I
One
think,
instant.
sir. Yeah. By the way, what kind of microphone did you get?
Um, well, this is Africa, so who knows? It's probably an non-registered generic microphone. I am getting my Rode fixed, actually. What happened is, the butthole. I mean, the place where you put in the USB stick. It kind of got wore out for all the perpetual use. So I'm getting that replaced on my proper microphone.
I see. I see.
Yeah. So over here in Africa, you can't just buy a microphone. You never know. It could say Rode NT, and it's really a broke MP that you're going to be bringing to your house, and yeah, you won't get the same quality or experience that you'd be hoping for. So sometimes it's better to wait, get your other one fixed, use this one. Actually, no. If you're going to be doing live streams with multiple people, you use one for that, and then the other one for the other thing as well. So
Hmm.
yeah.
It's interesting. So today we're going to be talking about charm and charisma. But I think maybe we'll get a little intro, get a couple people coming in, get people clicking that like button, clicking the share button, subscribing to the channel if they have not already, because we're going to be talking about important ways of influencing people, right? These things, right? Charm, charisma, they pull on our heartstrings in a non rational way, in an emotional way. So they're very powerful, right? People always refer to Hitler and his charisma, for example. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, that guy, people are saying this is a recording. No, this is live stream. We can hear you live.
Yes, 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 we can indeed hear and see. And we're just getting started here on this conversation. So, why would charm be different from charisma? Because people talk about Hitler's charisma, but
Mhm.
perhaps you don't necessarily imagine him being charming, right? So, can we start painting the picture between what is a charming person versus a charismatic person?
Yeah, okay. So we'll try to start laying down the foundations so that we can try to delineate the difference between them. So when it comes to charm, charm is something like it's someone who can figure out what something or what people want and then present themselves or aspects of themselves that is charming, right? Uh, I like you because of sorry, you like me because you see something in me that pleases you. For example, let's say you're trying to woo a woman. That's charm. It's not necessarily a charisma. The charismatic guy will do anything and it will be right in the woman's mindset because she's so focused on hooked on that thing that she's seeing the glow. But the charming person would be okay, let me think of it this way. I know the woman wants to talk about herself, her job, how amazing it is, and how great it is that she managed to get a PhD. You let her talk. The charming guy will listen. He'll be like, okay, sounds great. Please expand. And when he sees that she's not interested anymore, he's able to flip, change that narrative, then find a different path to take. The charismatic guy, it doesn't really matter what he's saying. She's not even paying attention to what he's saying. She's paying attention to his appearance and how everything is coming out.
Okay, so let me give a round of applause. Can we get gunshots too, I guess? For oh, it sounds like it was in the background or something like that. Someone 2 rooms down got killed. But um Dotty girl, Dotty gal them for the £3. She's out there
Probably people from
causing
my
havoc
channel.
in the Queen's country.
They're gonna
Right?
come here from the Kaiserine Empire. Yeah, that pro.
From the Kaiser Empire is where they
Yeah, that
were
kind of
learning
name
from.
with pound sign and a girl. This is a you know, I charmed them. I charmed them into giving you a £3 donation. Shout out! Now you can finally eat that meal once a day.
So a charming person is displaying things to you that you find charming. They come to you, let's say, in their Bill Clinton mode, because I'm going to use a model now, because everybody knows the president of the United States visible enough figure that people can be used as a model, right?
Right.
So Bill Clinton is a charming person because Bill Clinton will say the right things. He will bite his lower lip and say, "I feel your pain," right? And people are like, "Oh," all that kind of stuff, telling you what you want to hear, slapping your backs, kissing your babies, massaging your whatever, and all that kind of stuff. So it's an external display, and he's finding cues to this dance that he's doing with you, while
Right.
a charismatic person, on the other hand, people could be drawn to them, but not because, right, they are because they're telling you that you look great or that they feel your pain or all that kind of stuff, right? But people are still drawn to them. We use Hitler as the other example, right? And it seems like one is more internal and one is more external. If I were to say that kind of a thing, would I be too crazy?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I think it makes perfect sense what you just said there. So let's say the person that's charming is looking at isn't the engineer. The charmer is an engineer. His or her mind is thinking in an engineering perspective. He or she is the kind of person that listens to game. Okay, we know what game is, right? In the manosphere, game is like, okay, you got to do this, you got to learn this. This is how she's going to respond. Or pickup artist. Let's not even talk about game. Game is a little bit different. Pickup artistry. The charming person is going to be engaged in that whole pickup artistry stuff because he thinks that there's a perfect way to pull the buttons and a perfect way to present yourself that's going to allow the woman or the object of your desire to fall in love with you. Meanwhile, the charismatic person is out here just being themselves, whatever that means, and is able to attract the woman because he's just got the right walk, he's just got the right talk, he's got the right gift of gab, he's got the right appearance. That is just, as a totality, there's just something attractive about it. Maybe even the authenticity. He or she may disagree with the other person that he or she is trying to woo, but there's just something about them that still draws them in. And there's also a sense of focus when it comes to charismatic people. They just are who they are, and that is attractive to a lot of people. There's a sense of power, grace in charisma. You don't have to agree with most things that they say, right, with a charismatic person, but I think with the charming person, people will have to come and call in and say, I don't agree with everything he says, but because it's almost like there's this you're building this network of, you're supposed to agree with me because that's the game that you're playing. But with a charismatic person, you're just following them because you know that they have vision, strength, and qualities that you can see that if you really, if you put it out there in the open space, it is attractive. And I think that's some of the differences.
Good. And I'm going to ask the chat here if they believe they are more charming or charismatic, ladies and gentlemen. But we're going to take a commercial break. Yes. For you to grab that mimosa, glass of wine, Bloody Mary, whatever it may be this Saturday, right? We're going to take a short commercial break here with Jay Ibrahim. And we're going to have a poll question. Feel free to like, share, subscribe. Ain't that right? Do the right thing. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ike Ogiamian. I'm a YouTuber, okay? Since we're on YouTube, that is worth mentioning. However, I'm also an engineer based in the state of California, but my company is international. And also, I'm in real estate development. I'm in the taxi business and many other aspects of business world and, shall we say, marketing that we'll get into in this conversation, I'm sure. But again, my name is Ike Ogiamian. Find a conspiracy, find something to point at with everybody. That takes a lot of energy. It's wasted energy. And as you say, yes, it does not breed success.
One of the things that I like about you, and I'm not going to say these nice things, obviously, ever again, especially on WhatsApp. But Kevin Samuels, which is a good friend of mine.
We're like judges, senators, and ambassadors and generals, and they turned and looked at me and said, African Americans. I was like, yes. And there was this silence in the room because they finished playing the golf and we're eating a buffet. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, I think they have the technical skills that the Nigerian diasporans don't have, because the Nigerian diasporans are specific to specific.
Then what does that result in? There is a mechanism, or a knee-jerk reaction, a self-defense mechanism to say, oh no, they're if they're so great, how come they don't fix Africa? Or wow, they're just taking advantage of, they're taking their, you know all the stories, right? Yeah, they're taking advantage of what we fought for and all that kind of stuff. So part of the reason I'm just out here with my face, my name and everything, where you can see me fully transparent, is and just talking about what I want to talk about, not even addressing these particular things, because I just want to show you the human side. Here's what I'm interested in. I do music, I do business, I do engineering, I blah, 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 blah. This is what a Nigerian looks like. I'm traveling to Africa soon. I'll be giving the video.
Young man, do you want to succeed, to expand beyond your horizons? If you want to be free, then you must learn to master yourself, your thoughts, feelings, your body and spirit. Master your subjective consciousness. Every action has an opposite and equal reaction. The world outside of yourself is ruled by those who are not ruled by their base instincts. Young man, go forth into the world after this. Meditate, contemplate, then plan and execute an action towards success. Take a risk, break the rules, and be disciplined within self.
Cap. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And so far, Dr. K, right? So far, Dr. K and Chart, we've said that charm is something that is external engineering of people's emotions, right? You're like getting cues from them and you're saying the right things. You're Bill Clinton. You're charming. The way you kissed her hand was charming. The way you listened and this and that and the other, the way you gave that speech and the way you felt their pain and all that kind of stuff. While charisma, on the other hand, is something that is internal in the person that you are sensing, right? There's a certain authenticity, you might say, a strength of will, some would say, deepness and profoundness of belief, some would say. Right? There's just something about that person, and they are their own man, some might say. They are their own man or their own woman, and hence their people are drawn to them. And it does kind of, hence you can't be maximally charming and also maximally, shall we say, charismatic. There's nobody that's totally like a Bill Clinton type, and also is this other strong, silent type that people are drawn to as well. Okay. So knowing whom you are within that spectrum, would you say is useful?
Yeah, I think it makes sense because so first of all, to all the naysayers, no one is fully one or the other, of course, right? There's always a spectrum or leaning that someone might have depending on their personality, but in general, we have access to both qualities. I would say that, let's say, who do we know from the manosphere that we can say, right? I would say that Ramil is very charismatic, and I will say that Kevin Samuel is charming. I think that's a good example of two people you could say, okay, one leans more on the other side. And you might disagree with the Kevin Samuels one, but I think it's accurate. Why? He started his YouTube channel one way, with one business strategy, and he kept seeing things separately, and he kept improving based on what the market was demanding until he had a perfect product and a perfect way to sell that product, which included conversations, control with the mute button and all that kind of stuff.
Do you think that do you have a sense that one is more effective than the other? Or basically what I'm asking is, under what circumstances is one more effective than the other? And also, do you get a sense that one is perhaps easier to develop than the other? Which is it easier to develop your skills of charming, of charm
Yes.
and
I
charming
believe so.
people and engineering them versus the other thing? So you do think that charm is easier
I
to
agree.
develop? So what are the
Yeah.
ways? So what are the ways in which charm can be developed, and then how does it play out in the world, and what are its advantages? And then maybe we might see
Right.
some pitfalls of it, if you will.
Yeah. So before I answer that question, I want to say that because I explained what charming is, right? I didn't really explain too much about charisma. Charisma is swagger, right? If we're going to try to make it something that we kind of see all over this YouTube space, charisma is swagger, right? Someone just has a certain way of talking, certain way of doing things that just happens to be resonating well with what most people in that environment are appreciating. This is the kinds of people who, let's say, Black women love so much, right? They have a certain way of speaking, certain kind of attitude, certain behavior, certain flow, certain walking style that is just attractive, right? The woman might reject you and tell you, look, I like you, you're a nice person, but it's just the way you walk isn't quite right. That's charisma. Now, are you saying is one better than the other, or is one easily improved? Yes, I would say charm is easily, compared to charisma, something that you can change within a certain time frame. And that's what I would say, that's the main difference. So if I was someone who didn't have any of these two skills developed highly, I would rather become more charming rather than try to improve my charisma if I wanted immediate or results that you could kind of see within a short time frame. Because with charm, that's why charm is so powerful. Charm is a bit like charming is like when you are charming an animal, right? There's a whole point to it. Charming a snake charmers, right? There's a word that exists, right? There's a whole job. In Nigeria, they have animal charmers. They're able to charm in Ethiopia. What happens is you have a man that has this long stick. He puts some meat on the end of it, and then he feeds it to the hyenas, which come and climb on his back. He's able to charm the hyenas. The hyena, in usual sense, is a very wild animal that will tear you into shreds. Bigger bite force than a lion, and more crazy than a lion. Right? These are scavengers. However, he can charm that hyena because he knows what the hyena wants, and he knows how to give it to the hyena. He also knows hyena's behaviors, attributes, and usualness. He can begin to predict it. That's the power of charm. It really is charm. Now with charisma, as I mentioned earlier, the power is equally strong if you have, I guess, if you have the swagger.
Let's talk about a temporal aspect of what you just said. There's a time dimension. I think it's interesting here. You said that with charm, number one, we're saying that it is more easily developed within a short amount of time, but also its effects are more readily seen, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about the development of charm. You can easily learn how to have, basic etiquette, okay, and social skills, how to
Right.
greet people, how to present yourself, if you will, how to
Mhm.
be, we get it. And that you can immediately start seeing these effects. But let's say with
Right.
charisma, for example, which, to build that particular ethos of being this particular person, you have to
Right.
have lived that life, right? Let's say it's
Exactly.
based on, wow,
You have got grown
that's
up in the
General
hood.
so-and-so, right? Like General Patton or whomever, right? Not a charming guy, but or like Mad Dog Mathis, for example. He had to live the particular life to now be Mad Dog Mathis. And it
Right.
actually does take time for you for people to have something solid that they see in you, which is part of charisma, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so you mentioned so much things that we could kind of split into different topics there. Like you have Carlton, and also you have Will Smith. Now, Will Smith is both charming and charismatic. He's both. He's got both gifts inside him. Carlton, I don't know if Carlton is
Charlton
either.
has neither.
Right.
Carlton
So-
is neither charming nor charismatic.
Right. He just has none of it, right? He's an intelligent guy. He I don't want to go through. We all know who Carlton is, right? And we know who Will is in that show. Carlton has neither. So Carlton could actually develop charm, right? He could now start to understand how to charm others. The issue though with charm, though, I'll say this: charm is difficult to do it across time. The reason why it's difficult to do it across time is because it requires you to be able to separate your own internal preferences, like your own. Let's say you cannot be triggered and then be charming across time. When people say, "Oh, you can't lie," liars always
If you're
get
going to be
found
Bill
out. No.
Clinton, you need to be smooth all the time.
Exactly.
It's basically
All
what
the
you're
time.
saying. So
Across
and
time.
that takes a lot of energy. It tends,
Exactly.
because there was a video once that of Bill Clinton angry, right? Because no one has ever seen that before.
Right.
And by the way, he as you could imagine, and because no one has ever seen that side of him, it was rather crazy.
Yeah.
But it all totally makes sense. Of course, he's Bill Clinton. He's a freaking madman. Of course, he gets angry all the time and throws a paper at the freaking and like, oh, you guys are low level or whatever, right? You know?
Yeah.
Constantly. But you have to curate this kind of picture of I am cool and chill all the time type deal.
But there is another issue with charm is that people tend to get in trouble because of using charm, because charm presents an ideal version of you to someone, and the thing is, you're charming multiple different people, right? You're not just charming everyone. You're charming specific groups and specific people. So what happens is, if you now start trying to charm a different group, the people who are looking at the charm are going to start looking at you like, oh, look, why are they doing this now? Why are they saying this now? You're going to be held under more scrutiny. However, the charismatic guy like your ex-president, what's his name?
Charismatic now.
Yes,
You
it's
said-
the last one,
Oh,
the
Donald.
old man, Donald Trump. Very charismatic.
Yeah.
Right. That
Donald's
guy did not
charismatic.
try to charm anyone. He didn't even
Yeah.
try to charm the white supremacist, as he's been accused of. He was just himself, being crazy, doing all sorts of things. Had no political, traditional diplomatic abilities to kind of, say the right things in the right way and appease the right people. He didn't have that kind of gift of
Let
gab,
me
or
turn the
he
question
didn't
on you
present it.
because I think it'll help
Right.
people to answer the question, which is on the chat, by the way. Click the like button and respond to the poll. The question being, how would you describe yourself, more charming or charismatic? So let's turn the question to you. We've seen how kind of charm plays itself out. Are you more of a user of charm, or do you rely more on that charisma? What would you say?
Good question. I think across time, I rely more on charisma, but I think in real time, I rely more on charm. So I think there is like an underlying thread across time that you can see my charisma there. You can kind of see, okay, this guy's kind of like this. It's crazy. Okay, that's my charisma. It's like, okay, this guy's crazy across time. But in real time, I am using charm. I am figuring out what the algorithm wants, and then I'm presenting it if it doesn't go against my own internal preferences to a point it's going to cause me internal perturbation. So there is a conversation there, but I would say across time, I'm charismatic in a crazy sense, and in real time, I'm charming.
Indeed. And yes, I did finally do the stream. A long promised stream here. Again, these are two powerful ways of influencing people in a non-rational way. It tugs at you
What about
directly,
you?
kind of like music. Go ahead. What did you say?
What about you? Are you more charming or more charismatic?
I would say definitely on the charismatic side.
Mhm.
Overall. And let's talk about my preferences, for example. I prefer a Donald Trump, right, to a Bill Clinton. If I'm even going to buy something, even like a salesman, I prefer a salesman with bluster and BS than one that tries to slick me into the car, right? I'm more likely to actually buy from a bluster BS guy than the guy that cares about all that. It's like, dude, I I realize it's a job for both of you guys. So that's my preference externally. Plus, also, I think that the way I am is to establish credibility, right? Through like mastery of some kind of skill, find some kind of edge corner place where no one has really mastered that corner, form a fiefdom there, and then have that reputation, which is a charisma thing, right? Reputation precede you. So I use the reputation thing a lot, typically through expertise. But in real time, I'm gonna go, let's say, to close a deal, I am using a lot of, charm, right? And I do believe that is very important. And but for me, it's not natural. So I go into my, shall we say, mastery of subjective consciousness mode when it comes to that. But it is very important to know which side you are on is the deal. Ain't that right, adult supervision? That is why it's an interesting question. What side are you on? Are you more of a charismatic person because maybe you're a little bit more introverted, because you will find that introverts tend to have more charisma naturally than extroverts. Is that true in the chat? Okay. Maybe I'll end this poll and start the other poll. Introverts tend to have more on the charisma end of things than extroverts naturally. So if you're an introvert, you need to check that and see, well, is that where I really land on? Because when it comes to influencing people, introverts tend to think, oh, I don't really have any special gifts. It's like, dude, you're an introvert. People actually trust you more because you haven't said anything, right? People don't trust Bill Clinton. They just want to be around him for the party. There's a difference.
Right.
So am I right there that, if you're an introvert, introvert is probably going to correlate. Here's introvert logic for you. It's going to correlate more with, shall we say, charisma than an extrovert, which would probably be more on the charm side of things.
Yeah, I think generally that would be correct. And also, I think I wanted to come for a point you made earlier about you'd rather buy from someone like Donald Trump rather than Bill Clinton. I think if you were charmed the right way, the issue is you're talking about charm in a general sense. But if someone
Yes. You're correct. You're correct.
Let's say sales, right?
Overall, I would take the perfect Bill Clinton over the perfect Donald.
Right, exactly. So if you can,
yeah. But it's just that yeah.
Right, because
in aggregate, I just rather go over to the Donald side because I kind of it's easier.
Right.
Because charm is either you're being charmed the right way or it's just stupid. That's the thing about charm.
Right.
It's awkward. It's awkward. That snake oil sleaziness. Charm can become very sleazy. Because at least with charisma, it's like, here I am. Here's what it is. Blah blah blah. The charismatic salesman might even be like pushing your button, like, well, you can't spend an extra $5,000. What you talking about? It's the greatest car in the fucking, come on, you look great in this thing. Drop the money, it doesn't matter, right? That's more charismatic type, right? And it just is what it is.
Yeah. So
what would you prefer? Would you agree that you will take the perfect Bill Clinton, or and in general too? What do you go for? Or you don't even care? You just dive in.
I think for me, it would just be the market cup, really. Yeah, I don't mind either way. It depends on the market cup. Like, what am I? But
overall, you've said that you have enough. Transtemporally, you have this charisma thing over time, but in real time, you do more of the charm thing. Yeah. I think you're probably better. And you said that the charm is easier to develop, right, than charisma, and because anyone can learn the basic etiquette of human interactions, listening. Right. Giving people what they want. Do you have any tips for listening? I have a couple, but do you have any tips for becoming a better listener? Because it's something that some people struggle with, right? You can see on YouTube every day people not listening, people interrupting each other, and all kinds of things that happen, even though people say that it's important to listen.
Yeah, I mean, okay, the tips I think could work will be a bit difficult. So whether they're going to work statistically, it won't work very well statistically, because to even want to go down this journey, you already have to have the certain mindset. But I would say if you want to become a better listener, you need to learn to listen to yourself first. So you have to be introspective. You have to go in inwards, start thinking, just looking at yourself honestly, and just figuring out who you are first. If you can do that, then you can be able to actually listen to someone else. Because most of the time we're not listening because we're just yapping, right? We want to yap. And also the assumption is the other person's not listening to me, so I have to yap louder than the other person. So if you really want to become a better listener, listen to yourself. Introspective, learn who you are, listen to what your mind is telling you. Meditate basically at first. But if you're talking about practical tools, well, you can go to a listening class. They do work. You can go, to go in certain fields, like if you want to become a therapist, and a good one who's going to actually keep getting clients back, right? Let's say if you're private, there are classes where you can actually learn to become a better listener.
I went to 12-step programs. One particular 12. So back in the day when I got a DUI, I did have to go to AA, but that was back in college. But it's part of the program, right? But right. I also went to what is called what do they call it? Something anonymous. Isn't it?
Alcohol.
Is it that when you have this crazy relationship, which is like interconnected, you guys are codependent.
Codependent.
It's called Codependent Anonymous. So this is like you can imagine a higher level meeting, right? You imagine, right?
Right.
Because you have all kinds of anonymous, victim of this anonymous, blah, 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 blah. It's like, but Codependent Anonymous, because it's self-select for a certain type of person, right? To go there and talk about, I think I'm a bit codependent, So it was a great place. My point is, I went there to actually listen, right? And it was a great place to actually be able to just hear people on a less than superficial level. And one of the rules that they have there is no one can react to what anyone says. That's one of the rules of any 12-step stuff. So people just talk, and you're not supposed to. You don't say anybody's name. You don't reference when you in your time, right? No cross referencing of anything.
Examinations. Yeah.
Rather interesting way, because you might think, but wouldn't it be, wouldn't you want that? It's like, but no, that can only happen, as you know, amongst like 1% of the population can actually engage with the ideas and in a way that doesn't become completely destructive. But it seems to be that a tool for good social order is just not to have people react to what other people say, right? Just say, and shut up. Okay, you say whatever you want as long as it's not about what anybody else said. But that was one way that helped me in terms of my listening skills, because there's things that you would hear people say that you might just kind of dismiss or think where it's coming from because people are different from you. But when you go to such meetings and you hear them tell you the whole thing and what's really going on with them, you get a little bit more insight. But also in real time, I always talk about this skill of like mimicking what someone says, and this is a good thing of charm, right? Where whatever the last thing you said, I just repeat it to you, right?
Right.
And it's perfectly fine, and it keeps the conversation going, right? And then you would say, keeps the conversation going, huh? And then I'll say, yeah, perfectly keep the conversation, and then you can have a whole conversation, especially let's say if you're not a particularly, maybe that day you're just not feeling extroverted, or maybe you're not an extrovert to begin with. You don't particularly have certain kinds of skills of a lot of energy to put into talking to people. Repeating what they say and just listening is they will think, that's a great way of building charisma too, if you think about it, right? Because you're just sitting there, because people actually think you're interesting when you're interested in what they have to say. Okay?
Yes.
People don't actually care what you're saying. People want you to be a good receptor of what people think is interesting is the way you receive what they say, right? It's not what you say. It's like, you're so interesting because you listen and you repeat it. So it's a great way of actually building on your charisma. So introvert, you're already typically trusted. Introvert too, you can also just repeat what people say and be a good listener. Great for charisma as well. So, indeed. Now, how about if you wanted to develop other ways of developing charisma? Because we've talked so far that charm is easier and we get it. It's like go learn sales, okay? Go learn how to be a better Bill Clinton. Go learn how to feel other people's pain and transfer that and be cool and smooth. But charisma, we're saying, is difficult to have and so far to develop. And I've only just mentioned certain things, like if you're already disposed to being a charismatic person, which is introverted, blah, 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 then these are the things you can do. But how else can one, shall we say, develop charisma? I talked about expertise within a silo, form of fiefdom. For example, the consigliere of the mob, which is the trust. There's always a number two guy, a trusted advisor type, right? That for me is the peak of career. If you have these two, let's say, people, and they're going to rise to become leaders, the peak charmer is going to be the front face, right? The peak charismatic guy is going to be the actual guy behind him, telling him what to do and how it goes and that kind of stuff, right? Like if you take Henry Kissinger, for example, right? Never going to be the front of any particular thing, but he's just got mad charisma. Everyone seems to want to listen to what this guy has to say, right? So how do you become a Henry Kissinger type, right? How do you become this person whom does not have to kiss the babies or anything, but whose opinion is gonna be sought after?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, a charismatic person has a transtemporal appeal to them. So one way is actually fulfilling the things that you've done. people like you and the amalgamation of who you are across time. So let's say if you're a politician, you have actually built the well that you said you're going to build in Lusaka village in the right time frame that you said you would. You have actually given them something that they can look up to and say, okay, yeah, he did do it. I don't have to like him. Like charisma is almost like your parent relationship where they don't have to like you, but they trust you for some reason. So if they're already trusting you and they like the fact that you've done all the things that you said you have, and that's why I said it's difficult to be charismatic. It's much easier, or rather, it's difficult. There's a difference in charisma and charm, because charm, it's easy to not do it long term. With charisma, you have to do it long term.
Versus ethics, right?
See that again?
Etiquette
Versus ethics. Exactly, right. One of them, by nature, charm has an element of etiquette, right? It's what you present. With charisma, it's who you are. And if who you are is inconsistent across time, you don't have that charisma, because that's what charisma is banking on. I am the person, because charisma has the element of character. Charm, obviously, as we know, there's an element of hypnosis, right? Charm is hypnosis. Charisma is character, and it's a character that is what they're rooting for. And the thing with character is it's culturally created. So if you were born in the wrong culture and you enter a different culture, they won't think you have a good charisma, because it just won't be something that, again, we're assuming many things here by me making that point, right? But there's a lot.
You might find a niche. Like, there are different niches for these outlier charismatic types. One might be, let's say, the shaman, for example, right?
Exactly.
Maybe that's not your own, and maybe you end up being this other unit. But they're different. Maybe you can find where to hide, or if you're high, or maybe you're just too high level, then you just choose. If you can be a shaman. Imagine you get thrown back in time randomly. There's a game that you play. You push a button and you just randomly end up somewhere, and you have to live the next 50 years. You're this eternal creature, right? And you just have to live and die by wherever you land. Would you play that game, by the way?
Yeah, well, I played games similar to that before. So the point here, though, is like, okay, what do people want? Because this is all part of wisdom as well. Wisdom is knowing which one you are, or which one is more relevant to you, should I say, right? Because we did say, no one is any one thing specifically, but people are, amalgamations and exertions of different character or personality types, right? So I would say, for example, in my case, transtemporally, I try to have a certain character. Okay, yes, fair enough. Some people say I'm unreliable, right? And that is true. I am unreliable. Again, it depends on the thing that we're relying on, right? Now, that's the charisma or character that they might see, which they don't like. But if I'm, in general, I try then to fix that with the charm by making sure that, okay, in real time, the big things that we're trying to do, we accomplish it the right way.
Yeah, so the Joker, for example, is not reliable.
No.
But he's very charming. The Joker is all charm. The Joker is not that bad guy. I think something. Who's the bad guy in the MOT uses his I think Darkseid. Darkseid is the it's the total opposite of no charm, but he's just I'm the god of all the whatever, all will kneel. All he says is kneel. That's not the Joker.
Yeah, even
but
Batman,
Darkseid is consistent. When Darkseid is coming, it's gonna be hell to pay, and everyone's gonna kneel.
He's reliable. You can rely on him to be that evil guy. Joker, no, look, he might even save a baby if for whatever reason that he wants.
Yeah, the Joker might save a baby. The Joker might quit one day, or just whatever.
Yeah,
who knows? Unreliable, but charming. Okay, I think these are good examples for the weirdos out there who need comic book characters, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think. Even the Batman, he's not charming, right? That guy is some weirdo, man.
Yeah, the Batman is definitely the opposite of the Joker, but also slightly broken too, because the Joker is like an extreme charismatic character, but Batman is not necessarily an extreme Sorry, Joker's an extreme charm, right? Batman's not
Yeah.
necessarily extreme charisma
No.
because he's a simp.
No,
Because he
he's a
kind of,
simp. No,
yeah, he kind of cares, does, you know.
yeah. So, and the Batman also, I don't trust him either, right? He's not fully reliable. He might break one day, and that's why he has this fear that the Superman is going to break.
Yeah. So Darkseid, and you know, because a real extreme, you know, charisma is someone like Darkseid, or I don't even know if there's a good. I don't know if there's a good guy, right? Because you know, because there's something about
Yeah.
character which is a little unruly, right? Because by definition, it is outside of the norm. It does not take
I'll say
normative instructions from the outside.
anti-heroes, I would say, or
Yeah.
you know what I'm trying to say by anti-heroes is a hero, a reluctant hero, right? That's what I'm going to define that as that
Yes. A reluctant,
this
yeah,
conversation.
typical reluctant hero type. Okay, and that makes sense.
They're
if you
more-
think about,
Mhm.
yeah. The people whom get into politics didn't really want to get into the politics, but somehow they got into the
Right.
politics because they
Mhm.
were needed and blah blah blah. They or because they're competent. They're around other competent people, but they watch this wannabe politicians amongst their group of competent people and just like, you guys don't know what you're doing type stuff, you know. And then that's how they
Yeah.
get it, because that happens too, where it's just like, let me show you guys how to actually do this, or let me be the, you know. And typically what the charismatic person really wants is autonomy. Just another way of
Yeah.
kind of, obviously we're saying they're autonomous, that's why we like them. So they must value autonomy for them to be autonomous. So they value autonomy, and that's why they like to be the ear
Mhm.
behind the king, rather than being the king. The king doesn't have autonomy. It's
Nope.
arguable that guy, like Henry Kissinger, has more freedom and autonomy than the president, right?
Of course.
Because he's just doing whatever, he just does whatever he wants, you know. But behind the scenes, he has a lot of influence and power, but he's not chained by all this BS.
Oh yeah, Hancock. Hancock is a good example of a hero that I actually did like. I mean, he was a drunk. He had all sorts of flaws, but in the end, he had character. There was a character to him. He didn't come across as fake at all. And yeah, so there's a thing with those kinds of people that you can just trust them and they're more reliable. I think reliability is a really good point. Difference between charm and charisma. At the surface level, of course.
I'm going to continue my introvert logic here. So if you're that type of person whom, because we know it's difficult, it takes a long time and all this kinds of stuff to do the charisma thing. But so if you find yourself in this particular group of anime watching weirdo that is more likely that your skill is probably going to be more charisma than charm, right? Then you should understand clearly, number one, that you are on this group. Number two, what do you want? And it probably has something to do with autonomy. Okay. And how do you get autonomy? You have to develop a niche skill or something. Again, it could be as woo and crazy as Henry Kissinger expertise in world domination, or maybe you're not going to aim that high. Maybe you just want to be a niche scientist in one particular area, and and all these other charmers out there vying for power will need you. Because they can't get things to work without you, okay? And you have your autonomy because you're the man behind the throne. You're not actually in front of the throne, and you're the consigliere of the mob family, right? And you don't have to take the bullets.
Yeah, that's all true. That's all true. Someone in the chat says, Project says, Hancock, I love that character before the woman entered the story. Yeah, it was a great character. I really did like. To be honest, I do like a lot of anti-heroes because, first of all, they actually represent real human characters. These, cookie cut, perfect. Because if you compare the sitcom, right? Sitcom is out there trying to charm you, and I think this is the point that you're bringing up earlier, that you'd rather be having some uncouth seller who's just giving you to how it is. Like, look, I'm trying to sell you this car. I want this from you, and this is how it is, and yes, you will love it. Rather than trying to be charmed. Oh, by the way, we're saving the environment. This and this, and all these other kind of
it's like, okay, a hotel is telling you, that the reason why they're reducing the water pressure on your shower head is because
Right.
they're trying to save
Right.
the environment. And it's like,
It's like, no.
no, it's because you're trying to save money in your
Save your rent.
pockets.
Yeah.
It's your, stop this BS. You could have
Exactly.
just, but okay. So charm easier to develop.
Mhm.
It seems like, we ended the poll. Shout out
Right.
to the lead attorney, by the way. We ended the poll, and it seems, as I would expect, that more people consider themselves to be more on the charisma end. Okay,
Mhm.
which is, probably more introverted. You, for whatever reason, you don't necessarily like, or you find it easier to develop character than to play the etiquette game.
Right.
Maybe you're a little uncouth, right? Like you. Maybe that's the reason you're not. You rely more on charm, for example. But that's a different.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, you rely on
because
charm because
some
you
of
are uncouth.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm uncouth, right? I have a lot of behavioral traits which my mother kept telling me to change them more, this, and that, and I'm like, okay, I don't have to change this. I don't have to change who I am because I like being uncouth, but I do see where you're coming from. So I'll become more charming. I'll make sure that in these projects I can do them, can do enough to make sure that I'm not completely uncouth in every single way. And also, there's a point here that Jordan Peterson likes to bring up. Oh, this is why the long form conversations is doing so well. The old school media presenters thought that you had to have a charming, nice, cookie cutter show, the sitcoms, the single camera, overly orange and bright, warm
Yeah.
stuff, right? With these laughs and smiles and, not wanting to have the conversation go beyond a certain level of reality. It was all kind of very, very constrained. They're trying
You
to
know what's
charm the
happening right now?
masses.
Because let me just say something and point out an area where this is also presenting itself. Because what you're saying is, too much charm was emphasized, and now we're into the world of more openness, authenticity, and charisma. Go ahead and people will say whatever. Let people say whatever, such as Joe Rogan, for example. Joe Rogan is a typical example.
Mhm.
People come in and say whatever, and it's the number one podcast, right? But you know where else it's also happening? People in, let's say, venture capitalism, okay, or people, let's say,
Right.
wanting a backer. You have an idea, you have the next great app, and you're looking for somebody to work with. People are no longer looking for companies. Like, oh, I'm gonna go with
Right.
JS, whatever. It's like, no, I
Yeah.
want to work with Peter Thiel, or I think I
Mhm.
want Elon Musk on this, or I want Anthony Pompliano, right?
Right.
For these particular reasons, because he did X, Y, and Z. Like, so branding now has become more of a charisma thing by being
Exactly.
very
'Cause-
individuated,
and guess what?
tied
As
to a
we mentioned
particular
earlier,
name. All these company brands don't matter much.
Right.
Go ahead.
and as we mentioned earlier about transtemporality of charisma, is that they're when people are investing in you or your company, they don't care about the company, or they don't care about the structure, or all the oligarch nonsense, right? What they're caring about is you, the idea with you together, with the ability to follow through. That's what they're investing in. So when they see you, they want to see, okay, your character. That's what they're investing in. Charm is nice, it gets you through the door, but across time it doesn't keep you in game, and that's really the situation. Now
This is interesting. That's an interesting point, because I knew this about that, but I never quite kind of connected it. That look, there are a lot of people like in these spaces or whatever it may be that perhaps would see themselves not as the most charming, or have the ability to develop charm as much. Even though we said you can always develop your skills of charm, etiquette, sales, whatever you want to call it, right? But
right.
The market right now is actually in favor of charisma. So if you are on this side, it's a great time to be a weirdo. In other words, it's a great time to be niche, great time to have your own particular name, great time to be out here on social media, controlling your own particular narrative, if you will. Who knows where it may end up? It may not end up anywhere in particular, but this is the way the market is right now. People are looking to work with individual brands, rather than I want to just put my money in this company or have this company. So yeah, it's an interesting thing in that regard. Shout out to Abby in the building. Can't be talking smack about other content creators. Abby, it's uncouth. It's not very charming. You're not being very charming, Abby. But I would suspect you're one of those charisma people. Huh? You're like, F this. I'm gonna build my army based on the strength of my will. Ubermensch.
Right, and right on. Like, so yeah, there's a lot of, because previously we were kind of led to act in a way that charm is the only way to do things. You had to do things in the FE, social political etiquette. But now that people have realized, first of all, that was a specific control narrative, meaning the people that were like that were the ones controlling the narrative. But now there's multiplicities of ideas that's already kind of reined in on the zeitgeist. So right now it's actually no. You figure out what works for you, and this is the great thing about this, understanding which one you are, charming or charisma. You can really try to fill in the holes. Like I said, I am actually transtemporally very uncouth, but I can use charm the right way to create opportunities. Because let's say, for example, when I was doing my PhD, I always like to go here, right? Because there's a lot of lessons I've derived from it, right? From introspection. It's like this, for example, I could have been more charming. Okay, no, let me explain the context here. I wasn't doing what they wanted me to do, which was go to the meetings, show my work every week, go to the office at the right time where everybody else is at the office, showing some kind of progress. It could be little, but just showing that I'm doing something. I was like, no, I'd rather be home, being depressed, watching anime, being happy on the other side, doing other stuff, rather than going down this path and being nice and smiling at people. So I decided to just be charming in my own way. And my own way of charming was the big projects, I hit it down running. I knew that I couldn't maintain the long-term stuff. I couldn't be charming long-term. And I knew my character wasn't what they wanted long-term. So I just did it my own way. I figured out how to charm them by bringing them the big meat, right? I didn't go hunting every day, but I came back every month with a much, much, much bigger meat than the other hunters.
Let's address something before, and then we'll move. We'll kind of circle back into this idea of the practical ways in which both charm and, shall we say, charisma play themselves out in any kind of organization, any kind of endeavor, any kind of thing that you're trying to do, right? But let's address the question by Abby here, which is saying that most people are neither. In other words, most people just grow on you over time and such and such. So I would say no. Most people, either you are an FE person or you're more FI. Now, most people are not Bill Clinton or Hitler, right? So most people are not going to maximize either their FE skills or their FI skills. And you don't have to worry what FE or FI means. It's just one is more on the charm side, which is FE.
People are not good at those skills. I think that's what he means.
Yeah, people are. Yeah, they're not good. But one,
so
one
it's
like you actually are more able to naturally gifted on one side or the other, right? Whether you develop it at all, right, is another question, right? But you're gonna be more on one side than the other. And this is a question of, okay, cool. If you're gonna be more of a person that is into self-development, which this whole channel is about, right? Because I'm obsessed with that crap, right? It might be a problem. I need to, get some self-development help about my obsession with self-development. That's going to be a crazy spiral to get out of. But the idea, to the degree to which someone wants to get into self-development, you're going to need to see, okay, where are my things? Like for me, it's not going to be charm per se. I have too many advantages, right, on the charisma side to start trying to be competing with Bill Clinton. It's like, no, I can't compete with Bill Clinton. I got this other thing that I'm good at. Okay, conform these silos, get this expertise, be the guy behind the guy, get all kinds of autonomy and all that kind of stuff.
Be the guy behind the guy.
The guy behind the guy. Oh yeah, that's
Uh-oh.
What are we supposed to say? Is it pause or
pause? I think is what they say these days.
I think pause is what they're saying these days.
Yeah, that's what the Gen Z say.
That's what the Gen Z
in my generation, we didn't have to say that because there was no way that would have been taken.
There's a lot of energy, by the way, spent. I think I mentioned this before with you, but imagine the amount of energy and time spent in any kind of collective conversation, let's say in a meeting and such, explaining around things, why things, like explaining what you're actually saying versus just saying something. Okay, like for example, like saying, well, I don't really endorse what this person says, and I think she's a da-da-da-da-da, and I'm not saying this, that, the other, but I think maybe we need to take it, that kind of thing, where you're worried about dancing around the landmines of politically incorrect things, right? And the landmines of uncouthness these days, not to antagonize anyone who may be woke, if you will, that there's just so much said I think about 75% of what it actually said is just talking around things. Like, I'm going to spend a 5-minute preamble saying it doesn't mean I support this, or I'm not really saying this, or it doesn't mean I'm not saying this, or not all. I don't mean, all that kind of stuff.
Right. And I think that's why
some little point.
That's why I like my version of charm. My charm is, like I said, I did mention real time, but my charm is real time with a bit of mid-level transtemporality. I won't say the right thing in that right necessarily moment in response to something else. I will say the right thing in that whole conversation, then that the totality of the conversation has a nice little flow. It's like I'll come and blow up everything rather than at the end, right? And they'll respect me for it. I won't try to tell you, oh, if you do, I'm not going to start dancing around. I don't charm that way because I think that's ineffective. But you can charm them by throwing in that bomb. It's like, okay, like I said with the meetings and everything, it's like, okay, look, fine. They think I'm a retard. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to make sure that at the end of every 6 months, I come up with a nice bomb that keeps them happy and satisfied. I think that's a better way to charm if you're going to charm. Because if you try to do this whole weird FE of, as you just dancing around the conversation, it annoys the more intelligent people. And if the more intelligent people have the power to give you access to actually moving forward, because if you notice all these movies, it's always like, oh, I see something in you. Like the boss sits down the guy who they can actually see, that introverted, quiet guy who's out there in the meeting. They come to him, look, I've seen your ideas before. It's great. I need you to come out more out of your shell. It's not going to give it to the guy who's just yapping all the time, as you mentioned, where there's no direction. Like directionless yapping, trying to appease everything. It's like, as you mentioned there, that is not attractive, I would say, to people that have power and you want the power from them. It might be enough, just to maintain your position in that level. It's not going to let you rise higher than that. At least that won't be the thing that makes you rise high.
Captain Levi, the Captain Levi level is for me is the highest representation of this because it's art, and I find art to be the highest representation of concepts because you're the most dense and rich. And I am a Captain Levi guy. Somebody may not know what I'm saying. Most people don't know what I'm talking about, but I'll get to what the point is, right? There's a way of reiterating. And Captain Levi is Attack on Titan is the name of the show, right? Attack on Titan. And Captain Levi is not at the very top, right? But he has autonomy. Imagine he's a captain, so he has a squad, and his squad, he leads the scouts, and these are the craziest guys, right? Let's say the head of the most badass special forces team, okay? That guy, as opposed to trying to be a general on top of that controls the whole army. A charming person may be more likely to go to the general level, but someone who is into the whole charisma thing, and that's their strength, and because they want autonomy, they're gonna stay at the level of Captain Levi, where Captain Levi is respected. People listen, the generals all like, hey, Captain Levi ends up making a whole lot of decisions behind closed doors for people because the people are like, yeah, I'm going to listen to Captain Levi as opposed to all the other junior staff that I have around me whom are just, charmers just like me, like
right,
people all full of shit. Like, I don't trust any people. What does Captain Levi have to say about this? So there's a Captain Levi level. If you're going to operate within a corporation, you got to understand that you may not necessarily just want to rise in a particular way, right? And get trapped somewhere you don't want to be in. Maybe you can find a particular fiefdom, be the Captain Levi, the man that's actually behind the man, have autonomy, run your own squad. There are ways of doing that. I don't know, go ahead.
100%. And I think, like I said earlier, you just, kind of create my little point with the leader of the boss of the company coming up to the quiet guy and be like, okay, I see your work. Situation over there. And the thing with charm, though, charm can also have its effect or effect. Getting lost which one is the right one to say at this point. But anyways, let's say Kifaru, right? We know Kifaru from my channel. We know when you present, see, the good thing about charm is you can actually use it effectively to psychoanalyze people. As Abi said, he said, like, I'm good at analyzing someone and implementing targeted pandering campaigns on a person. That falls under charm, but I personally hate doing it. And that's why I'm so blunt online. Lord. So
that sounds like
so
you, right? Like this sounds like what you do, just kind of real-time analysis of people and doing the charm thing. But you guys are kind of like the Joker, and that's why I think
exactly, and which is sometimes that's why it sounds contradictory. Like we don't always charm the way that should be charmed to get the effect that many people think that we want. because we're analyzing different levels of what we're trying to find out in our heads. So we might not always do it all the time. We can do it, but sometimes it gets annoying, and we're like, okay, no, I'm not going to charm them this time. I'm just going to do it the way I want to do it. So yes, 100%. That sounds like what I do.
So let's come back a level again to kind of understand that within any particular organization, let's say you're talking about even the marketing and sales, the evangelical arm, the evangelism that needs to be done, there's going to be need for charm and there's going to be need for charisma, right? Because a lot of times, obviously, people get in this silly thing of, all those Bill Clintons are all useless. I'm going to form a team of nothing but death side, dark sides, or whatever. It is rare that you have quote unquote charismatic presidents, but Donald Trump, I guess,
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a team of all Donald Trumps. First of all, what's wrong conceptually with thinking that you're just going to have a whole bunch of the sameness and that it'll work?
Oh, okay. There's many things wrong there because so we kind of try to define charisma more as a transtemporally being able to act a vision out and be successful, something more or less to those lines. And charm is more of like hypnosis. The thing is, there are people who need to be charmed rather than follow the charisma. They do exist. There's some people who want to feel a certain way, who want to be told things in a certain way. For example, if you look at,
I think they're probably the majority, because I mentioned that I actually prefer a BSing charismatic person than a charmer most of the time.
But it depends on the environment, and I think this is why it's good to be self knowledgeable, right? If you're in a nuclear weapons facility and then your target, they're trying to choose the person to be the leader of removing the rubbish, right, the nuclear waste. They want to have to choose the person that's most competent in doing this. This could be knowing the right policies, dealing and having the right connections with the right geopolitical leaders, etc., and or access to Elon Musk or whoever has got the space shuttle to take it. It's going to be based on competency and also character, as in, okay, I trust this person. However, if you're trying to be in some other sort of fields where it's more people-based, charm actually be the thing that actually allows you easy access onto a certain level. Jordan Peterson is both charming and has character, charisma. He did charm people. People do, especially men. This, like the way that he talked, he was hypnotizing people, but also he had that character that you can sort of trust across time, which is what they try to attack, and which I actually think is his own weakness, right? But that's a whole different conversation. So I'll say yes, you do need to have that hypnotic appeal as well under certain rubrics, especially when it's people-centric and not necessarily consequence-based. I would say consequence-based, people are more likely to trust the charismatic guy who they can, amalgamation of their character is what they're trusting, especially if it's chaotic and they don't know the outcome. I would rather trust the charismatic guy. But when it comes to people-based situations where the consequences of you making the wrong decision isn't like life or death, the charming guy is more appealing, I would say.
Well, yes, 100%. And within this organization, let's say even within that nuclear power plant, okay, there is the level of, there's a boardroom somewhere, okay? Either two governments negotiating something or the union versus the, shall we say, management or whatever it may be, or somebody selling something or buying something or having to come out to the public and tell the public that they're taking care of the recent nuclear leak they just had or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So there is that level of shall we say, negotiation, public relations, communications, right? And on that level,
the press,
you're gonna need both of these types of people.
For the press, you do need the charmer, but then for like media, like let's say YouTube media personality, charisma can take you a long way.
Yeah, so here's my typical there is one conceptualization of it that says that charm is great on the top of the funnel, charisma gets more and more useful as you get down to the bottom of the funnel, because it kind of also fits your whole expertise thing, but also within sales, The top of the funnel is, you're prospecting, you're keeping relationships going. It's public relations, it's marketing. Let's say, because marketing or branding, for example, might not be trying to sell you anything. He just wants to show you a McDonald's sign right now. You're going through Twitter and you just see, I'm loving it, or your target's like, okay, that's branding. That's top of the funnel type stuff. Charm is great then. But there are times when you need to bring in the person with gravitas, right, to give that speech to the masses, right? Like we're bringing our Henry Kissinger out. We're bringing our gravitas, our charismatic individual who must earn this by something that they have inside of them that people see as authentic, right? So, and that's like a bottom of the funnel individual event. But most of the activity goes on, as one might imagine, on the top of the funnel. Prospecting, talking, branding, keeping conversations going, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was actually doing a little bit of a test on one of the listeners right now. So I asked her, "Hey, why don't you join my Patreon?" I was straightforward, and she did join it right now. So shout out to her. Audrey.
There's closing is a beautiful thing. I like it because it's it's like gambling, and there's so many different things that you can do, right? And the different success rates for different environments and for different things. Like if you were to kind of test this out, like how about it? How many times can or what's the success rate of just being on a stream and asking somebody, right? Under what conditions does it work best? Does it work best when there are 10 people in the room or 1,000 people in the room? And on and on.
Sometimes with 10 people. It depends on what you want and the mathematics, right? Because if it's 1,000 people, you can sell them a product for $1 each, right? It's 10 people. Yeah, it does depend on the circumstance, but I think there's something good about honesty sometimes. Just simply asking. They can say no, and that's fine as well, and that's a good thing. The problem is though the simp attaches value to winning. That's when things start.
I think you overheard a conversation that I was having the other day when I was telling people something and I brought up price. I said XYZ and that'll be about $1,600, and if ABC, that'll be like 3 times more, right? And it is one of my techniques. A charismatic technique is charisma in order to perfect charisma, you need to perfect the art of the open book, right? Because the charisma, the gravitas, is the person that could come in and say the truth, right? And has enough strength.
There's a risk here, though, right? When you're an open book, there's a risk of skeletons. If you have low RAM,
but it depends on which book you're showing them, sir. Of course, there's always a hidden hand.
That's why I said if you have low RAM, don't try it.
yeah, of course. I said perfect. So if you're gonna perfect this thing, so we're talking about you're a high level guy, you're working on your charisma, you're the guy with gravitas after all, right? You're that tip of the spear, bottom of the funnel, you're being called to the congressional to give that speech or arguing, whatever it may be, right? You gotta be upfront with the facts. Like if it's in closing, for example, with the sales, you tell them this is what it costs, right? That boom, directness. And here's the thing about directness is more simple. And people like simple. It could be for the RAM reasons, the memory reasons that you mentioned, or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Fact is, I'm loving it, or want to get away, or Nokia, connecting people, all that kind of stuff. Simple, repeatable. That's the way you get to people. So simplicity. This is the price. Okay. Now what? Okay. And it's also rather bold.
That's a good one. Also, you mentioned a really good point there about closing and selling. Look, I know my weakness when it comes to this stuff. It's follow through, and that's where I have to attack that dusty, uncouth lack of character. Right? That's obvious. However, when you are trying to sell, there is an element of, and I've seen this so much these days. Give the person the option, have no emotional attachment to them not doing the thing that you want them to do.
Because you see, I think this is a good. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but you can go on, because basically the option that you mentioned, like give people the option, that's the main thing. People don't never want to feel like their back is against the wall. Okay,
exactly.
Hiding the price is making it seem like their back is against the wall, or trying to make it seem like, or trying to talk around the price, or talking about all the value first. No, but not bringing the elephant in the room. pretending as though there's no elephant in the room is insulting their intelligence, but also makes them feel like you're trying to trick them. But it's like,
Yeah.
hey, there's an elephant in the room. You can always run away from this room, by the way. I see the elephant, you see the elephant, right?
Right.
So it's like,
But there's a
you're
piece of
free
gold right
to
there.
walk away.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
But there's a piece of gold right there. There's a big fat elephant here, and it's not that fast. It walks at 6
Yeah,
miles
so
an hour.
then we discuss like how are we gonna get the gold without the
Right.
elephant getting us. That's the idea. But when
Exactly.
you start hiding the elephant and talking about the gold and you're tricking them and trying to, be a slick, that
doesn't
now,
work.
obviously it works for certain people. If you have that kind of
Mhm.
energy, and again you're a charmer and you just charm people to death, that's what you do. That's what how some people actually close. My closing tends to be more of the upfront, direct. Here's the information. Now let's
Yeah.
tackle it technically.
But sometimes I don't think they actually. Okay, now there's obviously multiplicity in this discussion here, but I think the charmers, right? They think that they're closing because they're charming, but most of the time they're closing because that person wanted that product anyway, and this just happened to be the product that was right in front of them. So there's that element which they now misconstrue and think, oh, it's because I did all this.
Yeah,
And
they
I
can
didn't-
play the numbers game. In other words, like I think that the numbers
Right.
game obviously affects everybody, right? Everyone is exposed to the law of large numbers, but you also got to know where you fit in and what's technical. And the closing for charismatic person is if you got to be very comfortable with the technicalities of
Yeah,
everything that's going on.
course.
Right?
100%.
The technicalities of all their objections. What are objections when they say it? What is your concept of an objection? Do you have a concept of an objection? When somebody tells you, "Hey, I got to talk to my wife," or "We're not going to make that purchase this quarter," what does that really mean? Do you have a concept of what's actually going beyond that?
Yeah.
Not that it may be the right concept or the wrong concept, but you have to be very good on that conceptual level, like it's a Rubik's cube. You're like, oh, now he said this. What does that mean? In my worldview, basically everything but an emotional reason is just a protection against them exposing themselves to you. The emotional reason is I'm afraid to spend the money. I'm afraid that I won't use the product, that I actually won't come to the gym. I think you're lying to me. Those are the real reasons, right?
Yeah.
But there are all those other things that people say is just okay. My concept is that's not the real reason. So my way of playing it is to sidestep it, right? And say, okay, other than the fact that you have to talk to your partner, other than the fact that that you're doing it next quarter, is there any reason why you wouldn't buy this, right? So, because my whole thing is everything they say, but an emotional one, and when the emotional one gets there, I can sense, what when you're really getting down to it, and they even change their tone. They're like, you know what, for real, let me just tell you, man, it's the and then now you're really there, okay? But
Right.
you got to be comfortable with this kind of technicality rather than just like, rubbing their backs. If that's all you know how to do is rub their backs.
100%. And I think, sometimes we, because we get into autopilot mode and we don't want to remove ourselves from that pilot mode. We're just doing what the schools taught us. This is how it's done, right? This is how a TV show runs. 30 minutes, low level concept. You try to shove some moral lesson to someone. Oh, someone else comes in and thinks, well, what can people really handle? Oh, they make high level television. Because when I used to hear people say television rots your brain, I was thinking, hang on. Television has actually allowed me to engage with high level concepts and mythologies that have definitely helped me understand human nature. Then of course it becomes clear. They were talking about specific kind of television that they know is just emptiness. So I think once you're able to kind of know exactly how that whole flow works, what people really want, what people really are saying when they object to everything, you can kind of start playing them around. You can actually expose them to something. It's like swimming. You don't just tell them, you don't just shove them into the deep end. You start holding their hand, and then you go through that process, as you said, Ike. It's like, okay, well, what is it? What's the real reason why you can't do this? Is there any other reason? And when you do have those information, then you either you have it or you don't, in order to kind of close that situation. And then you tell them, hey, if this reasons no longer seem to be the end all of be all, come back. Here's my number, and we'll sort you out. And we'll prioritize you. And a lot of times they come back.
Yeah, you got to understand
Depending on the thing.
know how to play the follow-up game. A lot of times, a lot of money is left on the table, and there's a lot of, shall we say, value in the follow-up. So let's take a completely adjacent. Let's jump. It's not even tangential. We're jumping out of one circle. Okay, and in terms of what you think the next big thing is, I've been thinking that it's biotechnology type stuff and feeding the world by making fake meat in the lab or fake proteins and blah blah blah. There's drugs and things like that. There's also tied to healthcare. What's your latest these days in terms of where the next few billion-dollar or trillion-dollar companies are going to come from, the next set of problems that are going to be solved, and whatnot? Perhaps one could take cues in terms of investment. One could take cues in terms of doing something themselves, right? And all that kind of stuff. What do you say?
Well, okay. So the obvious ones is the kind of company that I'm trying to work on, which is providing employees transglobally. That's 100% going to be the thing. The reasons why, obviously, are straightforward. Declining number of people being born in certain countries, which have the money, and not having enough people to replace them. Also, the cost as well and replacement of these workers with machines. So, utilizing the fact, let's say, a worker from, Indian IT workers not being paid the same money yet, they're just as good, if not better, sort of situation. But having it standardized, choosing the right employees, managing them, and making sure that they can do their job, and you participating in the project management situation. I think that obviously is a easy way to make a couple billions. Now that's obvious. However, the things which are coming up, I agree with you. Biotech is where the future is. Food. You can never go wrong with food. Some of the biggest companies in America are food product-based companies.
Let me stop you for a second there, because just to make this particular observation about what you said. So, when the robots completely take over, I sometimes say when the robots arrive, which they're already here, they're all over the place. A data center, by the way, is filled with robots. It's just little nano robots doing work in the zeros and one space. That one might otherwise imagine a bunch of people doing, printing presses and press or whatever it may be, right? So when the robots completely take over within a particular economic space, geo-economic space, such as, let's say, the United States, it's not necessarily going to be cheap. It's not necessarily going to still be a cheap mode of production. Hence, when the biggest engineering company now has AI doing its designs, a whole bunch of other engineers, right, can compete by, rather than using AI, use cheap labor, whom, let's say, someone like you or somebody has made an easy network or easy way to almost replicate the kind of work that AI is doing, but still just the internet, with you using other people using robots in India, flesh robots, if you will, in India for cheaper labor and whatnot. Just wanted to highlight that because the mechanization or whatever, it's not going to be uniform. The economy is never uniform, by the way. People don't typically talk about the top, and it makes sense to talk about the top because changes are important at the margin. And what that concept means, which is a good concept and always true, that change is important at the margin. It means, for example, 50% is about 50%, 48% are going to vote one way, another 48% are going to vote one way, and therefore it's only a little percentage that makes the changes in the world. In a distributed group of markets, choosing, voting, those types of things, it's the margins that really matter. But I know I've been going on and on, but I just wanted to highlight that point there that you're making, that it's never uniform in a market, and that while some people are complete AI and robots, other people can do some other things, taking advantage of a global market.
Exactly. Especially when even the whole robot thing, the reason why it's one reason why it's obviously going to take over America is just because of the cost of running an employee and the risks associated. You have to go pay, let's say a McDonald's employee, right? No, warehouse employee. A warehouse employee, if they fall while trying to use one of those whatever mini crane things that they use, getting a product, you have to pay them some kind of insurance pays, etc. It might even be like several decades, like 20 years or something, because you've whatever. The issue is, that's why robots are going to be easily replacing the warehouse people. Stronger, they don't get tired as easily. Maintenance is a little bit more straightforward. However, the issue there is cost. These things are going to cost several, $50,000 for like a complete robot, for example. Now, that's obviously, if you look at the long-term investment, it's not that bad. However, there's going to be a lot of things like maintenance. These companies are going to sell their code, which they, it's going to be a subscription basis. So you will still be paying a lot of money. In some cases, almost as much as you would pay actual employees. Now, if you then find employees like in a different place where the economy, first of all, you don't pay them $10 an hour, you pay them $5 a day, right? compare that time aspect, you already remove some of the negative aspects. Now, if these other company that takes on the liabilities for, you take advantage of the fact that they don't have a unionized, politics, etc., you may actually end up making more money that way. So
Okay,
there's
so-
still going to be, go ahead.
Energy. What do you think? So we
Energy's
agreed
gonna
on the biochemical thing, which is going to
Yeah.
be definitely a lot of great things are going to come out of there.
Energy as
and-
well, and it's going to be more expensive as we become more robotic.
Yes, so that's the reason I thought of energy, because when you talk about the robots, then energy becomes everything. It's like, wait, if you have robots, I got robots. Go.
Exactly.
Now, then the energy becomes whom has the
Exactly.
cheapest source of energy becomes the
Mhm.
person who wins that race, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So energy, therefore, what is it going to prescribe? And you
Energy's
choose
not
your
going to.
geography.
Energy-
France, for example,
Energy has always been
80%. I got to remind people about, look up how France gets 80% of its electricity or its energy. Okay, it's ridiculous. It's
Right.
crazy when you what you might think it is and what it actually is. Okay, it's nuclear.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
France uses nuclear. And
Energy.
why are we scared or still remembering some old
Chernobyl.
tale about Chernobyl and my 3 Mile Line, like things don't improve? Like we're still thinking about Betamax when people are out here talking about MP3s or even blockchain technology. And like, oh, but the Betamax tape broke and we can't do it again. No more information. No more. It's like, dude.
Yeah.
So what are your kind of energy solutions? Obviously you have the options, wind, solar, blah, blah, blah. Can that actually meet the full need? How about transitional wise? How about natural gas? Or do you hate fracking so much? Well, what's your story around this?
Well, I guess it depends on now here is where you have to go. Since you mentioned energy, this is a global problem, not a local problem. So it will depend on the providers, right? And the access that they have. Let's say a country like Congo, if they build a hydro dam, goddamn, they'll be able to power up half of that continent because it's big enough and they have all the natural resource in order to do that. So it'll be their benefit to work on hydro dam. If you are a North African country or country where there's a lot of sun, solar is 100% something that you can look into because the efficiency is increasing. We might reach something like 30%, which is similar to the Kano efficiency, which is pretty goddamn good. Efficiency, I think right now you get like 22%, which is, again, pretty goddamn good. The thing is there, though, the research is improving significantly, exponentially to a point whereby cleaning it, all the issues of like cleaning it, making sure that it's pristine, you can have nanobots cleaning your the surface of your solar panel. So I think it really would depend on the specific region. I don't think you can go wrong in either way. What would have to happen, obviously,
But
is
you would
the
generally agree that
manufacturing process. Yes.
this view of looking at nuclear as something that is off the table, that it is not necessarily warranted, and people need to get over that particular inertia, because there's some places where it's just like, oh, that's off the table. You can't even say that. It's almost like witchcraft or it's that irrational is what I mean. And these are
The
in
thing with
places such as
nuclear, though-
United Nations or EU meetings and stuff like that, where people are supposed to be sophisticated. They act as though if
Yeah.
you say nuclear, you just mention the name that shall never be mentioned, and people get
Yeah.
shocked and clutch their pearls.
The issue with nuclear is you can't invest in it while you can invest in it, but you can't invest with it thinking that it's going to pan through. The reason why I say this is because nuclear is dependent on the geopolitics. Meaning, let's say if United Nations and the G8 whatever summit say something like, okay, we're all going to agree that we're not going to be using nuclear technology. If that happens, what they will do is they will sanction any other country that's still operating in nuclear. If they don't decommission their nuclear power plants, there's going to be a negative consequence on them. So the issue with nuclear is it's too controversial for you to necessarily put investment into it, because which country is going to risk sanction over their preferred energy program unless they've got something else that you get my point. So the issue with nuclear is, I would say, yeah, it's a great idea. It's cheap enough. It's if you have resources to build it and or get the uranium or whatever. Yeah, great. The issue is
Transportation.
Politics is unstable. Right, exactly.
Let's move to transportation, okay? Because we're talking about so far things that are outside the digital space, right? Which is where I think there's a lot of opportunity, because the past decade or so, a couple of decades, has been many decades, as a matter of fact, been this kind of revolution in digital space. But physical space is still the same old decrepit stuff. There's no flying cars and replicators and stuff like that, right? So what would you say in terms of transportation?
All right.
Hyperloop, is that a dumb idea? Some people say, oh, Hyperloop is a dumb idea because blah, blah, blah. Well, transportation revolution is the idea to reimagine the way one builds cities such that, you know, things are more controlled, centralized, blah, blah, blah. What do you see in terms of revolution in transportation going in the future?
Well, obviously, we're gonna have to make use of. Okay, if you look at Nairobi, right? Nairobi has just finished its so-called superhighway. This superhighway is above ground level, meaning there's a highway on the ground and then there's another highway above ground. So 100%, the more as you move, and China's already doing all this kinds of stuff as well. The more future we have, the more we go into the future, you're gonna start having to utilize space within, like skyscrapers. It's gonna be more of their version of transport. So that is 100% going to be the case. We don't have enough space on the ground, on the local ground, to be wasting it on roads. So everything is going to be on ground. Now, I believe it's going to be magnetic levitation based transport for various different reasons, right? So, you're going to be having lightweight materials that then you're going to having some electromagnetic rails or whatever pathways, which again, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be electromagnetic stuff, maybe even built with superconductors once we have room temperature.
Someone is asking about raw materials, and when you talk about these magnetic such and such, I always think, isn't all that magnet, rare earths type stuff, isn't that all in Africa? Right? We do have those resources.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So when it comes to raw materials, actually, we'll say Congo, man. That place has everything in it, and this is where.
Why are they so dusty then?
Man, because these people are low IQ. And
the government.
The government, yeah, no. Well, actually, yes, it's partly the government, right?
No, don't go there. Don't go there. What else are we gonna say? Because they're low IQ. I like that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, low. Yeah, look. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But when Congo was left colonialism, they only had like less than 20 high school educated people with no college educated people. So you can kind of see the trajectory. Meanwhile, Nigeria had thousands, Kenya had thousands. So you can kind of see a big difference there. They don't have a good legacy of intellectualism and actually understanding how to manage a country. The administrators were ill-equipped to actually run a country. So they couldn't make the right deals. They've actually, the government, yes, has actually refused to sell their resources to any other country. So people steal them. That's why like we need this stuff from here. We're going to get it one way or another. So we're going to fund guerrilla warfares in your country, take the resources. While it's simple as that. Yeah, it is the government, as people say, but it's because the government is low IQ. This one really is a government problem.
So let me. There's a point that I recently bring up from time to time regarding the level of despotism not being high enough. Some people say corruption and despotism and authoritarianism, and we should move more and more towards democracy. And then we see the same kind of mercenary. It's not democracy. We see mercenary on a high level, right? Because democracy without institutions. And I say, look, okay, what you might need, or the phase you might be in, is a despot that is so despotic that they actually have a long-term vision, right? As opposed to, I just want to steal money, okay, and I just want power. But it's like, no, I'm actually going to take control of this whole situation, okay? I'm going to arrange the economy, think about the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. That's what I'm talking about here. Contrast is the Chinese Communist Party, right? Chinese Communist Party with a long-term vision, full control, okay? Ebbs and flows, the reins of things and freedoms as it pleases, and takes the country where it wants to go, as opposed to these low IQ despots whom are only about taking money for this, for their stupid kids or whatever the hell it might be. So it's like, it's not a question of just despotism. It's a question of the despots are not even high level enough. They're not despotic enough. They're not grand enough.
Right. And I think, well, to be honest, I think in their sort of defense, that's what they really mean. Because, if you tell them, hey, we'll build this, I'll take my 20. I remember when I had this conversation with one of my white supremacist friends. We were talking about Black Lives Matter and the fact that the leader bought like £1 million house and stuff like that. And I said, I was trying to challenge him. I was like, oh, no, look, blacks, we're so, right? Corruption, and we're claiming that we want to rewrite the narrative. And then he actually disagreed. It's like, look, if she was fundamental in actually raising that 100 million, and she's only being paid like 30,000 a year, and she was the fundamental reason why they had the 100 million. Of course, there's nothing wrong with her taking that 1 million. She did nothing wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that in the free market, it's like you start an organization, and that's the thing about the branding and the things that you claim, and all that NGO, all that kind of
Right.
crap, So don't matter, right? It's like the service industry, for example. I like the service industry because you can have a lot of differentiation and a lot of pricing control, and people are willing to pay you XYZ for what you promised, and that's it. The question then becomes, were the people duped, right? Did the people get what
Exactly.
you said you were going to give them? And if
Yes.
it's just some kind of non-governmental organization that didn't really say they were going to give anybody anything, then
Well, then,
then it's
yeah,
all
you didn't do
good.
anything
Right? It's
wrong.
all good. So there's an
Legally
idea of
speaking, yeah.
kabuki theater, okay? In other words, there's this idea that a lot of these types of things are staged.
Yeah.
Let me go back, for example. There are, in marketing, they teach about advertising. They teach about certain kinds of where somebody infused or injected cigarette smoking women in some march, right? But it was all a way of selling Lucky Strike cigarettes, right? So
Right.
it seemed like a natural thing where these people are marching, but it was about the cigarettes, and to make it okay
Right.
for women to smoke cigarettes was the hump they had to get over. There was a stigma, a taboo of women smoking cigarettes publicly. So they did that kind of kabuki theater, and then there are many other such examples of people kind of creating some situations. Some people say that stuff like BLM, or let's say even the Justice Smollett stuff, is typically orchestrated as a way of, and maybe it follows a particular election cycle pattern, but that most of these things we see in the media are just orchestrated for some particular reason. Sometimes to raise money, that they actually just, let's create Black Lives Matter, raise money. That was all planned right from the beginning. And also it galvanizes votes. It helps other people raise money within the political cycle and the election cycle. What do you think about that conspiracy theory?
I mean, I don't think it's a big conspiracy theory. I think that is what actually happens, because when we asked them where the money went, they gave it to the political parties that they were running with, right? And they kept some of it. So I don't think that's much of a conspiracy. I think the issue is they charmed us, and that's where they charmed us into believing in this movement. And when I tried to tell them the charismatic aspect, well, these guys don't even care about family.
And there was no
saying that
charisma.
they
There was no
wanna-
substance. There was no ethos. Anybody with any particular ethos that was coming to the table saying that
Yes.
Yeah.
They didn't say what they're gonna do with the money. They didn't tell us anything. They just told us, "Oh, we don't like capitalism. We don't like."
And by the way, you
men
didn't
being-
donate, which is another thing that some
course
people,
not, right.
a lot of people who complain actually did not donate, which is another kind of strange thing, right? It's like, why do you
Right.
care? I didn't donate. I don't really care. So
Right.
I mean,
I don't
if-
really care either.
what do you think the people who donate? Are there people who donated and are now disappointed, or
The things, most of them don't really know, because these things they don't tend to follow up, right? There's no accountability.
yeah.
Right.
it's only the people who
There's no follow through.
didn't donate are the ones that are looking up and checking the facts and stuff, right? People
Right.
who donated, they're cool. They got what they wanted. Then all they wanted was a show. All they wanted was
Yeah.
some church time, right? They wanted to go to church and feel good about themselves. And by church, I'm not coming for religion, okay? I'm just saying what I'm saying, okay? Which is they wanted something to soothe their soul, right? And they probably
Yes.
got it out of donating, It's like a piece of art. People spend money on pieces of art that does stuff for their soul or whatever that not the rest of us is supposed to understand. So who's to say they got duped, especially if you didn't pay? Maybe the people whom paid
Yes.
got their church out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really something that I would say is quite it's quite open. And I think once you kind of know how charm works, how charisma works, you can stop yourself from being duped by people using either things. Because you could also have charm that immediately you just like this guy, right? There's something about them that you just trust and like, and you have to be careful. You have to watch their behavior across time. And also, if you're being charmed, just be careful. Someone's trying to manipulate you. And this is why actually when I try to charm people, I actually do it in the opposite way. I tell them how it is. I like, okay, look, like let's say to Nigel come in. I'm being uncouth mentioning people's names. To Nigel come into my stream, and I was like, hey, Dr. K, you're just using entertainment to get money from our people. So I tell to Nigel, well, the people want an entertaining show. And yes, I need the money to use in other things. the conversation ends there. I'm not trying to trick them and be like, well, I'm gonna go donate this money to the Dusty Children's home. That's not gonna happen. The money is gonna be used for my own enjoyment and buying pizzas and working out and paying for my gym. No Dusty kid is gonna see a single penny of this money. Now, it doesn't mean they won't see another Dusty penny of another money, right? That's a whole different argument altogether. But it's a good thing to sometimes just be straightforward, knowing your market as well, rather than trying to create some kind of falsities. Because what happens is I'm not gonna get cancelled unless I do something crazy mad. I can't be cancelled. But the charmer, like Murad Merali, is gonna get cancelled. The reason why is because he came up saying, hey, look, I defend black women. I defend black people from racism. Then he's caught doing the same act that he's saying he's defending people in.
Yeah, so this is another thing. So nice way of bringing it back to the topic, right? Talking about Black Lives Matter, which we got into because we were talking about development, which we got into because, anyways, talking about this idea of charm being fragile in terms of a reputation based on charm, right? Which you have to maintain, as we talked about, by being cool and charming all the time, as opposed to a reputation based on charisma, which means you got to be as authentic and deliver on what you said you were going to do and have a record, something solid, something that people can count on, like the sun is going to rise tomorrow, that type of stuff. Sun's very charismatic that way, okay? That takes long to build, but it's very it's rather robust and strong, right? Stronger than the charm stuff, which can kind of explode on your face at any given moment. You can take Joe Rogan for the charisma angle, right? Which is, rather than Joe Rogan coming out here telling people what they want, right? Doing the whole, I'm going to tell you what, he just went complete charisma, complete authenticity, complete, I'm going to just be the whole open book thing, in a smart way. Open the book. Yes, I do this. Yes, these are my thoughts. Everyone, I'm just a comedian, that type of stuff. And as a result, became uncancelable. Uncancelable. So you can build a whole lot of robustness with authenticity / charisma, and it can be as strong as a rock, right? As opposed to the more ephemeral charm, which can just be pulled away from you.
The obvious charm. The one where the people that are not being charmed can call it fake. You're doing something wrong. When you're being fake, when you're being accused of being fake, right? I've never been accused of being fake. I've been accused
but
of...
here's the thing. Even if you're playing FE correctly, the cycle of human interactions in this case is we need to build them up. Or let's just use the lens of the media, right? But it's not just the media. The media is just doing something that humans do. Okay. We build somebody up because that's the good story right now. Like, oh, look at this lowly whatever. Let's build him up. And then what other story is left to write? There's no other story left to write other than let's tear him down, right? Because people like a build-up story. They want to pull my heartstrings that way. And then at night, they want blood. Okay. It's not the media doing this. It's what people want. They actually want both, depending on when you get them. Okay, right? Yeah. They want to build people up and pull flavor, and then they want to tear them down. So that's just going to be the cycle of the charm game, of the FE game. If you get in that arena, that's going to happen to you.
Yeah, actually, I remember this conversation was asked. Was it Jordan Peterson was asked this question, or was it Elon Musk? I don't know, but one of them was asked the question like, okay, so do you reach a level where basically you're uncancelable? And he responded, I think it was Jordan Peterson. He said, no, actually, there are kinds of people like Elon Musk who can't be canceled because he was already had that kind of character. He was already doing all this crazy stuff from the beginning. There wasn't a point where he reached where it's like, oh yeah, now I can express myself how I want and they won't come for me. He's always been that person from the beginning.
That's why it's impossible to say, oh, I'm going to play the charm game. And then when I get the power, I'm going to really show them who I want.
No, it doesn't work quite like that. You could kind of do it graduated, obviously. Like, let's say when I started my YouTube channel, I was pandering to a certain types of people for a while. But I wasn't really pandering, right? I was like, I'm seeing you, right? You can play a complicated game like that, but with a much lower time frame. Like we're dealing with months as opposed to years and decades of someone's career. There's context there. right? But you're not gonna wake up one day, right? It's like when I, I've met some women and they'll tell you something like, okay, I will do the wifely things. Actually, no, this is actually a perfect example. I broke up with one lady once because
Talking about conditional femininity now. Is that where we ended up? We were having a good conversation about charm,
We ended
charisma,
up
these ways
about
of
women,
influencing
huh?
people, knowing whom you are, developing this, blah 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 blah. Go ahead.
Well, this is an interesting point here. So I broke up with one woman once because first of all, she thought I was a simp, so she wanted me to be paying for all the stuff, right? And she said this is a man's responsibility. I said okay, fine, but that means I need to be able to get what I want also from you, right? Let's just call it monkey double backflips for the sake of the argument. Now she didn't feel like I deserved it. She wanted me to show that I was living up to what it is to be a man. So I told her, but you also have to show what it is to live up as a woman. You and there's a greater point here is as in a woman who's going to tell you something like, well, I can't do wifely duties because I'm not your wife yet. You don't even know if she can do wifely duties, because some of these women think one day when they have the ring, they'll wake up and they will love to do the wifely duties. It's like if I'm being a simp I'm being a Dusty right now. I don't have work, I don't have money, I don't have anything that she wants. But when we finally get married, I'll somehow find the money out of nowhere, or I'll find the courage to go and slay the dragon out of nowhere. It doesn't work like that, right? It's like you're not going to wake up one day and just all the skills, experience, and preferential behavior somehow just become.
You're talking about skills and all that kind of stuff. But in the world of political power, you know what I mean? It's like 90% out of your control, right? In terms of if you play the FE game and then they decide to turn on you, there's nothing. You never had control then. It was the game of collective of charming the collective, right? Is not in your control. Like that thing can turn against you and it can slap you at any moment, as opposed to you being authentic and say, hey, I am Joe Rogan. I am this person. The people know who I am, and that's it, right? And you're strong that way. So even if the other game is by definition more ephemeral, easier to pull away from you, like because it's dependent on them. it's the people that decide.
Yeah.
But the idea of that wanting to tear down people, I just want to re-emphasize that yes, it's not different people. It's not like today one person wants to build you up and then tomorrow another person wants to tear you down. It's the same person. Okay.
Yeah.
They want to build you up, and they actually authentically want to build you up because that's a part of their emotional need that they want to satisfy. Want to satisfy their puppy dog. Oh, I helped the puppy dog with a broken leg. And the next day they want to tear down some animal to satisfy that dark side of them. Jekyll and Hyde, whatever you want to say. This is what people do. But also people find scapegoats, right? To kind of expatiate some kind of demonic things that they like that they have to get out. But they build a model. Like you have a model. You choose somebody as a model. Hey, let's build up Kaizoria. He's the model. Kaizora's our model. And then if the model is in contact with us, if he's not in the sky, or if it's not in the past, by the way, okay, which is a different type of model, okay. If you can get in contact with the model, that's a very dangerous thing because you're probably going to end up killing that guy that you made a model of. That's right. How it happens. They build Jesus and the rest of them, okay? They build you up.
Yeah.
Socrates, right? They build you up. Socrates is go. And then unless Socrates is in heaven, or unless Socrates is an ancestor, or otherwise, I'm saying in a realm that is outside of your immediate reach, people will do this thing where they flip and kill them. And then actually, after they kill them, then they put them in heaven, and then they start worshiping them again. As a matter of fact, it's a pattern that plays over and over. But you don't even have to go to the mythopoetic level to see that we do this thing, right? That, for example, just to notice that the models that are either dead or in a book or a long time ago are very different. They have this kind of metaphysical power than somebody that actually is possible to meet in shared space reality.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have so many of these tropes, even when it comes to artists, right? I think someone says, drop the line. When it comes to all these artists, right? We only worship them, right? After they're dead, or something, it's like, oh, right, they're the greatest artists, right? Now their art is worth $3 million for one unsigned work, and then like a signed work is worth like $10 million. Then also we kind of have that thing of, oh, now they're dead. It's irreverent for us to tear them down, right? Now it's like, oh, okay. Remember Michael Jackson, right? Before he died, you were, oh, he's a pedo. When he died, everybody bought his music.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely
he
one
made way-
aspect of it.
He made all
Definitely
the
one
money
aspect
back.
of it. But what I something that just struck me, and I'm just wondering if anyone else also, if it struck their intuition this way. Growing up, I always immediately knew that the models from the past, in other words, Moses or this or blah blah blah, have a mythological, shall we say, and it could just be your ancestor or whatever, have a mythological weight to them that present models don't have. Like it's just from a very long time. I don't know, 6 years old, 8 years or something. I noticed that. I was like, that is interesting. And I'm not saying that that's you and me. Like I still look at models from the once it's removed, it has a different kind of, it just kind of take on this mythopoetic magical power because it's in the past or it's in myth. In other words, it's in something or they're dead or whatever it is. It's in something where you cannot come in contact with them. And that is something in and of itself as to why that is might be an interesting rabbit hole, but I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much
I'm
thinking.
sure Hegel
unfortunately.
has something to say about that dialectic, but anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll kind of be landing this plane, okay? And you Dusties did not hit that super chat up unless, with the exception, okay? The exception of one person, okay, whom is now the sponsor of today's show, Dati Gal them, coming from the Caribbean side of the English pond or whatever the hell they're calling it these days. And I'm telling them to go back to their island, leave the white man's land alone, and stop dustying up the place with your stabbings and whatnot. But you know, we're looking at this irrational means of influencing people, of pulling their strings. One is charm. Bill Clinton slapping your back, telling you the right things based on external engineering and whatnot, feeling your pain and all this type of stuff. It can be easily developed, but we found in the end that it is also rather ephemeral, can be pulled away from you. The other end is dark side and charisma, right? Where it's not about you, it's about them, but we find that attractive. It's authentic. It is real.
Yeah.
It's something solid we see in there. It can be developed through reputation, doing what you said you're going to do. And if you find yourself in the charisma side, we gave examples of things that you can do, right? Which is you want autonomy, so find a way to create autonomy by creating some kind of expertise, being the ear behind the power. Because these charm people are going to need you. They're going to need that quiet guy in the room, right? Be that quiet guy in the room, know your stuff. The people whom are trying to rise, okay, partner with them, because you don't want to be the mob boss, you want to be the consigliere. That's the charismatic guy. You don't necessarily want to be the president, you want to be, what's his name? I forget his name now.
Yeah, so we got two more super chats actually.
Henry Kissinger.
So
damn. Okay.
yeah, it's
There you
raining
go.
out there.
So I don't know if I charmed them or was my charisma that brought that out.
Oh, it's your
What?
charisma, man. You didn't say, hey, you know, we're spending as content
Oh, yeah, I
creators
didn't
out
go.
here.
You're gonna support me. Shout out to my friend over here. What's that gunshot again? Try it again, because last time it sounded like it was 10 miles away or something.
Oh, okay. Let me put internal closing on.
Internal. There you go.
Yeah, shut up.
All right. Now you can turn it off. Okay, thank you. Shout out to Just Call Me Brian for the $20 super chat. You are very, very generous. Okay, here you go, bro. He says, throwing it in my face and all that nasty LA attitude. I know how it is. Says coming through in the clutch. Don McKee in. Yes. Shoot him up. Thank you. Coming through on the clutch. Thank you very much for the $5 super chat. Okay. Yeah, it's economic engines must prove their worth by extracting value for value, and the energy can keep on going in the way that it should, right? Isn't that, now I'm trying to be a FE and talk about the law of equivalent exchange or whatever kind of nonsense may be coming out of my mouth. But ladies and gentlemen, which one are you? Okay, and know the ways in which these different things play out. And we talk about large organizations where top of the funnel tends to be where charm works. Charm is branding and all that type of stuff. But then charisma is what tends to close the deal. Charisma, sometimes you're gonna need to bring out your big charisma, your big guns, your gravitas guys, your Henry Kissingers from time to time, but you also need.
Here's charm. Let me show you how charm might work at a low level. So shout out to you, Brian. Thank you for the super chat. Also, Don my key 90. So this is how I'm going to charm Brian, right? So if I want to, in fact, Brian, you should super chat my next show. But this is how you charm Brian, right? You say, hey, Brian, come and join my Patreon, right? There's reasons why, because you want to support me. But that's not how I charm you, though. How I charm you is I'm going to do a show on Sudan tomorrow.
Yes.
I'll show on
Yes.
Sudan.
And you
if
might
you
even make
say
some
that-
special content, especially on Sudan,
Exactly.
just for the Patreon guys. I'm surprised that you know, just for $7 a month, okay? And you probably watch many streams within that during that period, but that you might even give more money or whatever it may mean. But so $7 a month is nothing. You can start at $7 a month. Go to Patreon right now, okay? Become a Dusty, okay? Become a Dusty. You don't even have to do the whole, Kaisorian Emperor $50 level. Don't even worry about that,
Right.
okay? Just
Just
$7 a
level.
month, okay? Shout out to
Yeah,
you.
and- yeah, thank you guys.
That's it.
Mad
That
appreciation.
you went out with a whimper, not with a bang.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, I mean,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
all right.
Uh,
Shatta, what the bullets, the mascata. Hold up the light and spread the vibe with every word you utter. The matter to deliberate is how the youth them suffer. Inebriated of a cup of ignorance and squalor. You know what I'm saying? Or,
oh yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and Dr. Thunder is like to witness an embarrassing amount of simping from my co-host in Thursday's post last Thursday by Kaizorian Empire. Check out this video in the live chat and on the panel. So yeah, I was simping out there. So if you want to see me simping, click on that link.
There you go. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Wait your turn. So I'm waiting for the buses putting trick. Hit me with a freestyle.
Okay, give me a topic.
These guys, you just say, give me a topic. Talk about buses and transportation. And stuff.
Oh my goodness! Like, what kind of dry energy?
Transportation, roads. I don't know. You're the one to ask for a topic.
Okay,
putting weight
fair
upon.
enough, fair enough.
Yeah, waiting for the buses, putting weight upon the trusses. No discussion. Cussing and bussing with my 45. Whatever. I don't know.
Been stuck in jail for the last 500 years. Is it discussing or is it busting? When I took the transportation chain, I had it over on my neck. But right now, 400 years later, man, I'm not under arrest. I'm so happy. But when I'm thinking about the flavors, the flame grilled chicken comes up like Mabel's syrup. Maples coming in like I just cut down the trees. The whole space is like looking like cheese.
All right. You're not under
That's a cool
arrest,
one.
but you feel the duress. And I can attest that the stress that you feel coming through like Peel or Killing Teal or Peter Thiel. I don't know what the eel deal is, son. I'm coming with the red one, like a reptilian, not the Nigerian in the cafeteria. Smacking. Thing is, I always want to cuss and then I
Remember
have
that
to,
this is a family show. You can't be out here making people
can't be out
wonder,
here.
like,
Can't be out here cussing too much because and the cussing is an excuse, right? Because you it's a filler word, right? You know, MFR
Right.
is MFR is a lot of syllables. It's got a lot of charisma to it, and you didn't have to think anything. You know, you just like
right.
the real MFR, the real MFR, the real MFR. Woo! You know.
Shout out to Audrey Kemi. She's like, Kaiser's rhythm is whack.
Wow.
Wow,
You should give him a written one. You know, you're just
real one. Nah,
throw my
I
vocal
can't remember
cords
them, man.
in the sky.
Blue bird in the sky.
Oh my God, Indigo Child or whatever the hell you're talking about.
Indigo child. Nah. See, my rhythm is not work. It's just that I have no rhythm. There's a difference.
Yeah, the East Africans,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't have rhythm, man. We weren't born with
Africans
rhythm.
are they're not it.
Yeah. We were born with like, okay, let me try. Okay, give me a better topic though. Like buses.
Okay, a better topic. Okay, talk about lightning then. I don't know. heavenly bodies, the universe.
Oh, do you want me
Well-
to rap over this beat that you're playing in the background? You'd have to make it.
It never is in sync, but we can do that, and you can
that,
sound
yeah.
worse because you're gonna be out of sync with the beat.
Wow, all these. In fact, it's my supporters who are saying I suck. Think about this, Audrey. Now there's Jesse.
I'm gonna go lo-fi on you. I'm gonna go lo-fi. Okay, so let me put my. All right.
I'll make it louder. Not loud enough.
What?
Background beat needs to be louder.
Uh-huh. No, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. So that's it. That's all you get. That's all you read. That's all she wrote. That's all I quote. That's all I took a toke of. That's what I spoke of. But then I come down the stairs with 2 pairs of Air Force One. Air Force, son. That's my division. I'm coming through with the mission. No submission, no switch hitting in the hood. You know, something like that, dude. You gotta feel your inner Bantu come out with the swag and stop being a white man.
If you can go louder, I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go. Yeah. Station, I feel like it's stationary. Every single person that saw me, they thought I was a bit of crazy. Sometimes lately, I've been wondering, thinking about this whole place. It's like, yo, I'm just wondering. I'm a vagabond. I got this vegan attitude in my whole heart. I feel like I'm vegan. Floyd Mayweather can never punch me out because my middle name ain't nothing that can be messed with. I felt like I already got this disease that's never gonna go away or disappear. It's something that rhymes with HIV, but sometimes when I look at me, it's like I pick at the needles and I'm like, yo, I'm free. You're muted.
All right, I'm muted. Never disputed, but I've imputed the lyrics. Can't be tested, and I can attest this. Never be arrested. Not again, though. But back in the day, saw many back of police cars, police bars, police stars up in the sky, falling down like rain, falling down like pain on the pavement, feeling the enslavement, putting me in slip ships, but I break the chains, and I make it rain in strip clubs. I don't know why. I don't know what happened there. I was going I went into the heights of heaven and ended up in a strip club.
Yeah. We break the chains, but I want to make a refrain. All these haters over here, my name is Audrey, and there's also Kemi, and there's Jesse, and the real, the third man. I wish I had a real right now on my third house, about to chop it head off and eat it raw like a Masai. Beat it in the head, like one side. Man, my rhyming is terrible, man.
He's
Jesus.
disputing. Okay, cool. Well, that was not bad. That was not bad. Let me try a written. There was a verse like back in when I had dreadlocks. I think I was like 17 or something, right? So I'm 17 and I had dreadlocks. And I'm like, okay, some cussing and stuff, and I'm still trying to be accepted by the ADOS, right? I'm trying to pretend like I'm down. I'm like, in my dreams, I see a fiend handing out leaflets that warn of the second coming of Jesus. While police disturb the peace and see shit, I be chilling in the corner counting gold pieces. Cause money is the shit I bust my ass for. Money keeps me rolling on the asphalt. What the ladies ask for, I got the cash for. I even got my pimp license and passport. That kind of stuff. Rope
So you're the original passport, bro.
or the gunto, run yo, niggas jump hoops with the jump rope, the intrigue, deeply seated within me, the sensei, write lecture notes on the template, checkmate, Teflon, a blast on the breastplate, the best way to, yeah.
Man, you're good, man. You got nice flow, nice lyrics, and you're the
course I'm
original
good.
passport,
I
bro,
mean, come
man.
on, dude.
You're the pimp with the
You know who the hell you're
passport.
talking to?
About to control 200 niggas and past whores. I re-envision myself like a last port, about to take over like the Chinese man coming in with this chinky. Oh no, I don't want to take this video taken down like YouTube. They're gonna understand the realness that comes with this fool. Yeah, this fool. But yeah, it's pretty cool actually. These niggas actually think I can't rap, but still. Okay, you know what? Let me give them a good rap, right? Okay, yeah. Let's do it. Like, why don't you go and share a video by a Kendrick Lamar type beat? I know it won't be on time, but it's me.
These guys are like, oh, I need a beat, man. You know, you gotta give me a beat,
I need a
man.
beat, man. I need to feel inspired, man. Just type in Kendrick like beat.
Dr.
then
Thunder,
share-
you see this? You see this kind of so-called musicians? You know, sure you're great with your guitar because you know it's not human and has no soul or nothing. But when it comes to the real-time expression of your humanness, all this
man,
robotic white manness comes out.
That's more difficult. Yeah, give me a Kendrick Lamar type beat. Share that stuff, and
I'll
give
find
a
it.
little bit.
I'll find it. Don't think I won't. You know, he's over here talking Kendrick Lamar type beat. I'll type that in Google. Okay.
You're using your Eidos rapper voice. Oh, Lord. The original. Hi, guy. You're the original passport, bro. I saw in the lyrics, man.
Yeah, dude.
I'm
Even
getting my
back
pimp-
then,
my
even
pimp
back then,
license
I
and
was like,
passport.
hey, I got my
Good for you.
pimp license and passport. I was like, yeah, that's a good alliteration right there.
F500 bitches.
Oh man.
And that's not all. Oh. Apparently, I sound like Harry Potter and the Dusty Stone, the Philosopher's Stone. Oh my God. Audrey's funny though. I'm not gonna lie. She is funny.
So here's something I found. Okay.
Let's see. The thing though is, I actually don't like rhyming, but you know that's a whole different story.
Great. Is that you don't like rhyming or you can't? Like, all right, Mr. Chef. I know you don't like oregano on the, or whatever. Just put it on my eggs.
Let me found the lo-fi one first.
Yeah, let me. I'll do that.
Okay, Niani Mansa says go rap. Thank you very much. So I do have some supporters. So mad respect to all my lovers out there.
So the thing about this beat, okay, is it's called a Kendrick Lamar type beat, right? You see the name right here?
Yeah,
that's what you said.
That's what
everyone
I said.
is my witness. Said, give me a Kendrick Lamar type beat, and I'm gonna blow up this spot. I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna bring out the rhythm from the depths of the Niger Congo, and I'm gonna squash it on this.
Yeah, you're gonna put it. Okay, good.
Okay, let's see. Go. Let's see.
You go first.
Me?
Yeah.
You can hear everything, right?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Oh, like that, huh? Like that, like you can hear it, but you can never tear it, cause it's tough like Teflon. Yes, I got the Tef on. I got the third and the fourth too. I divorce you. I will then come back again with a different kind of flow, a different kind of row on a different kind of boat, a different kind of river that I slither through. I will deliver you to the upper room, motherfucker, like zoom, zoom, zoom on my Mazda. You know, what else do you want?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, all right, that's pretty dope, man. Let's try it. Yeah. Yeah. Call me the snake charmer. I came back to train her. I look at my own rhythm. I'm like, yo, survivor. I'm a survivor. I'm a fighter. Call me Christina Aguilera because I'm coming back like a liar. I've been charming this whole space up like full time, working a 9 to 5, but I never even got to arrive. My work time was late. My work time arrival. I came back like the second coming. Call me Christ, but I'm about to miss this place. I've been displaced. I feel as if I'm moving through this space. The time came back in like a continuum. I guess I didn't really miss this. I felt as though I've been stuck down on my knees. Decapitate that nigga's head until I can barely see and relate next. Then I Go make
You
that
better
tape my
stay
family.
laced up, better stay trashed up, strapped up from the waist up. Yeah, you're white from the waist down. Yes, and white from the head up, the neck up. That's why you ain't got this lyrics to wet up and set up the rhythm, set up the schism. I set up the times, I set up the rhymes in the perfect form. Yes, I take the perfect norm. I dispute the ones that you said before because they old from the past. Yes, they old like the grass that's growing out my ass. But anyways, what am I talking about? Rolling the joint, I'm rolling the point, I'm rolling the coin toss on the Vegas table. This is a fact, not a fable, cause I'm able to triple or treble or quadruple your rhymes any time of day. Yes, I got no leeway on this freeway, you can't see me. You know, anyways, we don't have to go on and on, you know, breaking the
You might
head
be
with-
able for the
with
moment
my,
to,
with my
okay.
tremendous skills and
Right.
shit.
So give me one more time, one more take, then
Give you
then
one
we
more
can-
take? Okay, you
one
want to
more
embarrass
take,
yourself
one more
again?
take.
Okay, go ahead.
One more time. Sir. I mean, like from the beginning. Okay.
Oh, you want? Oh, now the beat has to be from the beginning. Oh my god. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Okay. And you're listening. This is your true Lord, King Kaiser. Yeah. I'll show you how it's done. Yeah. I've been thinking. I've been living. Let's do this. Yeah. Let's go. Since I was one, all I could ever remember, all I could have been doing, or what I could have been done. Still, I was only one. The only thing that came in my memory was like, yo, I'm done. Time and memory come in like spaces. Within this place, it's like I just shot my head through this laces. Tied up my shoes, tied up my future, tied up my past. Now I'm looking right back at you. I can never really relate until I go back in my Rolex. When I go back, I feel like I just ate a Rolex back from Uganda. I'm back like this Gandus. I can't understand this because it feels scandalous. Until I go back, until I rewrite my name in this middle nature. Like a mother nature, like the moonlight. And see this place, it's like I can really relate to this. Still, I come back with my exes like 6 figures. Earning salary, call me a high value. But sometimes I'm like, yo, I ain't got no value, I'm just a dusty. Come and join my Patreon, it's just dusty $7. Half hour payment, come in like this statement. Never really understood how money worked until I met this bailiff. Bailiff came over my house at 2:30, took over everything. Even my shoes that I just spent $200 buying. I never really relate to this whole principle, but sometimes when I go to my teachers, they're like, yo, what are you looking, man? Are you just leeching from us? Are you just a bitch stuck in this ocean wave? Are you really just riding this flow until I can never really see myself, past, present, or future? Sometimes when I look right back, it's like I'm looking right past you. I'm looking for the pastures, because that's all I am. I'm a dusty nomad, but my true Bantu self came out, finally.
Rat-tat-tat-tat, I rat-tat-tat raps and I wrap them up like powder moving from the south side. That's the mouth side that I mounted on, that I punched the bitch on the couch, then I in her mouth. But anyways, okay, not bad. You know what? You redeemed yourself on that last one. You abandoned the need to rhyme, the fear of not rhyming, and then you brought some kind of you are quantized and use your physics skills to quantize and then rhythmically kind of display certain things there. I saw what you did. Not so bad. So the Kaiserian Empire has redeemed himself, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are